These are Family Guy moments that caused major backlash, starting with "And the Wiener Is," an episode which had the PTC trying to cancel them. So the Parents Television Council is essentially a non-profit group that advocates for what they believe is appropriate content to be broadcast on television, particularly focused on what they deem harmful images and messages for children. So why did they decide to target Family Guy, a famously child-friendly show? Well, since it's an animated show, it must be directly aimed at kids, right? So the PTC has filed complaints with the FCC for multiple episodes over the years, with their first indecency report being filed during a rebroadcast of the season 2 episode "And the Wiener Is," a full 4 years after the episode's premiere. Little late to the party on that one, don't you think?
Hey Chris, what's with your leg? Oh my god, that's not your leg!
Yeah, probably not a very surprising episode to get hit with a report from these guys. In the episode, Peter continues to try to compensate for his insecurities after he sees Chris naked in the sauna.
Thanks to you, our son has a huge wang.
Thanks to me?
Well, he didn't get it from me!
So Peter decides to get really into guns to feel like a man again. And the fact he's able to get one really makes you wonder if they're not running background checks anymore.
Peter, what the hell are you doing with that thing?
You want to touch it? Go on. Gotta be careful though.
But despite the PTC's protests, the FCC would deny their claim in a statement released in 2006, claiming that, quote, "Because of the absence of explicit or graphic descriptions or depictions of any organ, the episode taken as a whole is not patently offensive," end quote. After all, the episode isn't really about that body part, it's about the only body part that matters between a father and son. The heart. Okay, fine, it's a little bit about the other body part too. But the PTC would try their luck again with the season 4 episode that sounds a lot like their own name, PTV.
Hi there, I'm Peter Griffin, and you're watching PTV.
Ironic, considering this entire episode was made to poke fun at television censorship, particularly at the hands of the FCC.
And as you know, one call equals a billion people, which means 20 billion people were offended by this.
So in the episode, an overzealous FCC starts censoring anything that could be seen as offensive. And I mean anything.
It's the Van Show, starring Van.
I guess I'd rather go by Bleep than go by Richard, too. Anyway, this excessive censoring causes Peter to make his own TV channel.
With blackjack and
Kind of. PTV basically shows more raunchy content than what the FCC allows. Peter, Brian, and Stewie even sing about how crazy the FCC is over the top of clips of their most controversial moments.
They're the fellas at the freaking FCC.
Fun fact, the FCC actually liked this little diss track aimed at themselves, but the PTC wasn't as amused and attempted to organize a mass complaint filing with its members during the time period when ratings were being heavily monitored.
We're tired of you infecting people with your smut. This is an epidemic, and it must be contained.
After hearing that, you'd think they'd stop at nothing to get the episode removed, but nope, they actually did less than nothing. They never even bothered filing an official complaint against the show at all in 2004.
Lois, you are so full of What? No, I can't say in my own house?
Well, I'd say they get credit for their effort, but they didn't even try. But the PTC would try yet again when they took issue with the season 7 episode, Family Gay.
Peter, are you gay?
Guilty!
You're telling me an organization based around Christian values had a problem with this episode? So in this episode, Peter undergoes several experimental medical trials, including one that claims to have isolated the gay gene.
I don't want to take a chance on being gay.
We'll give you $125.
All right, I'll do it.
Well, money talks, and now Peter talks like that.
Well, it wasn't the Muffin Fairy. Or was it?
Peter eventually returns to his usual self, but not after partaking in some very stereotypical caricatures of gay people.
Guys, Brent can't fit in the and that's why we all like Brent.
And if you're thinking the PTC's problem was with these dated stereotypes, well, you're just slightly off.
I said homosexuality is wrong.
Are you being serious right now?
The PTC filed a formal complaint accusing the episode of containing overtly lewd content and violation of indecency laws. I guess I kinda get it. This is an episode where Stewie willingly eats cereal with horse milk. And if you're thinking, sweaty clam, how could Peter's male horse produce milk? Then I'm just gonna leave it up to you to figure that one out.
I'm a horse breeder now.
Can't believe I'm almost agreeing with the PTC. And the PTC would follow up the next season with a formal complaint against the episode Business Guy.
Carter, I am gonna throw you the best bachelor party ever.
So the episode revolves around Carter nearly dying and becoming unfit to run his own company.
I'm having a heart attack! You ought to know by now!
A Billy Joel reference so good that it nearly killed him. I'd say it was worth it though. And from there, Peter goes on to run Carter's company in his absence.
And you don't know anything about running a big business.
Whoa, thanks for the vote of confidence.
Nah, she clocked you with that one, Peter. You can't even mind your own business. How are you gonna mind someone else's? But why did the PTC have a problem with this episode? Well, it wasn't the topic itself, it was how Carter had his heart attack.
Why don't you get a lap dance, Mr. Peter-assment?
No, Peter's crippled friend. I think I'm just gonna leave.
Yep, it's all because the show featured a strip club. The dancer that Peter ordered was so good, it not only gave Carter a heart attack, but the PTC as well.
Yes! Oh, awesome! All right! Oh!
The PTC didn't waste any time with this one, filing a complaint just 2 days after the episode's initial broadcast. And as you can imagine, their complaint fell on deaf ears. If only the PTC could create some kind of device to control what's on their TVs. Maybe something that can work remotely. Oh, if only technology could be so advanced. And the PTC, yes, these guys, again, would look to control Family Guy once more by filing a complaint against the episode Brian and Stewie, complaining they were sick of the show's crap. Literally.
Did you just crap your diaper?
I got scared when the door closed.
So in this unorthodox episode, Brian and Stewie are locked in a bank vault with no way to get out.
These bank vault doors close automatically at the end of the workday. This thing won't be open again till tomorrow.
No cutaways, no music, and hardly any gags. Just a baby and dog discussing the value of their lives and their relationship. You know, comedy.
I just realized something.
What?
Tomorrow's Sunday.
You'd think the PTC would be excited for an episode without the usual crude and juvenile antics the show's known for, but then we get to Stewie's plan of how to get his diaper cleaned.
Eat it.
What?
Eat it, Brian.
You're out of your mind.
Oh, so the guy who gladly eats vomit suddenly has standards. But he goes through with the plan, only he has to do a bit more than just lick the diaper clean.
You'll have to clean my ass.
Oh, God, Stewie, there's gotta be a line.
Yeah, and Family Guy's made a career out of crossing it. This is just another week for the show, honestly.
Oh, and just do me a favor and tell me when you're about to begin, because I don't want to be surprised. Moon River!
And to the surprise of absolutely no one, the PTC filed a complaint against this episode, taking offense with the show's use of excretory content in a way they believed was purely meant to offend. PTC President Tim Winter was even quoted saying, quote, "It seems as though Family Guy creator Seth MacFarlane carefully reviewed the legal definition of broadcast indecency and set out to violate it as literally as he could," end quote.
Look, I hope this hasn't created any weirdness between us. I mean, it's not that strange what happened.
I guess not in a bizarro town like Quahog. Eating feces used to be reserved for weird movies to watch once on a dare and never again, but MacFarlane brought that stuff to prime time. Can a man be both a hero and a villain at the same time? But the PTC would continue to view him as a villain when they filed an indecency enforcement over the season 12 episode, A Fistful of Meg.
Fudge. Only I didn't say fudge. I said.
So the episode focuses on Meg being threatened by a new bully in town.
3 o'clock, Friday. I will destroy you.
I mean, she could just not show up to the fight. Being a coward is actually the safest thing you can do. I learned that from my octopus neighbor. Nobody can catch that guy. You'd need 4 pairs of handcuffs.
What am I gonna do?
Sounds like you have a pretty big problem, Meg.
Luckily, Quagmire teaches her the ways of weaponizing her grossness, and she does a little more than just beat up the bully. Honestly, that's how it used to feel getting hit with a pretty good Yo Mama joke on the playground back in the day. So yeah, the PTC had a field day with this one, citing lewd content pertaining to child assault,
Mama!
What are you doing out of your box?
violence against women, and unsavory acts involving food.
A year later, my body reacted to a frozen hot dog, and I died of septic shock.
Remember, hot dogs are for the mouth only. They should really clarify that on their packaging. And the PTC would file against the show one more time for the season 13 episode, Quagmire's Mom.
I gotta go sit in my den until you leave.
Oh, that's okay. I'll just take the school bus.
So Quagmire meets a girl at a house party Peter's throwing and spends the night with her, only to wake up to a startling realization.
I'm in high school.
What the hell? You said you were 23!
Yeah, and you said you love me.
Ah, so you're both guilty of doing equally bad things. But unfortunately for Quagmire, the police only come knocking for his crime.
Quagmire, I'm afraid you're under arrest for statutory.
Despite such a serious topic, the show mostly plays the situation for laughs, which did not sit well with the PTC, who filed an indecency complaint and urged others to do the same.
Our judicial system is so broken.
While this would be the last episode PTC filed a formal complaint for, this wouldn't be the last time Family Guy heard from them. In 2015, the PTC called out Seth for a joke that ended the episode Our Idiot Brian.
Hey Lois, guess what? I had them do that 2-wiener operation on me.
Definitely not one of their stronger endings, but Seth had had enough. So he responded to PTC President Tim Winter with a friendly, "If you think it's so easy, let's see you write an episode, wise guy." This actually surprised Winter, and after enough back and forth, the two actually met and had a civilized conversation where they managed to put their grudges behind them. They even took a picture together.
Whoa, hell yeah!
And for a brief moment in time, there was peace in the world. The PTC kinda gave up on trying to change Family Guy's ways, and Family Guy continued to find more people to peeve off. But over the course of the series, Family Guy would continue to be called out for its anti-religious jokes and viewpoints, with one of their earliest issues stemming from Season 2's Holy Crap.
God's watching me do number 2? Oh man, I'm a sinner and God's a pervert.
So the episode revolves around Peter trying to earn the attention and approval of his devotedly Catholic father.
Dad, now that you're retired, you're coming to stay with us. No more excuses.
But living with him somehow makes the hellish damnation he's always yelling about sound a lot more enjoyable.
So God cast the pagans and sinners into the fiery bowels of hell, where their flesh burned in agony.
So to spend more time with his dad, Peter gets him a job at his toy factory, which goes well until Francis becomes his boss and gets to say something he probably always wished he could tell his son.
You're fired.
Francis is just following the good book. God fired his son too, though he let him come back for a bit 3 days later. But if Francis won't accept Peter, then Peter will need to recruit someone even his father can't deny.
Careful, I just cleaned the floor.
Good thing, huh?
Lemonade.
The Pope seems pretty chill about more or less being kidnapped. I'll keep that in mind next time I get a +1 for a wedding. And with the Pope's help, Francis finally tells Peter that he loves him.
You do?
Of course. I just don't like you. I don't like anything about you.
Well, that's probably as good as this relationship's gonna get. Despite this episode looking like a church service compared to what the show's known for now, people still took issue with its portrayal of Catholicism. L. Brent Bozell III, the founder of the PTC, that's right, we can't get away from these guys, accused the show of promoting anti-Catholicism because of the character of Francis. What? But Francis is so charming.
You're a failure as a worker and as a father.
Okay, maybe he has a point, but if you think a character that believes in and preaches everything you believe is bad, then maybe it's time for a very long look in the mirror. But this wasn't the only time the PTC called Family Guy out for its portrayal of Christianity, especially when it portrayed God himself in the episode The Courtship of Stewie's Father.
Look, Lois, I think I know how to spend time with my own kid, all right? The bond between a father and son is sacred.
So this episode features a cutaway involving a teenage Jesus rebelling against Joseph.
Up yours, Joseph! You're not my real dad!
Aw, as the savior of all mankind feeling a little moody. So Jesus tries calling his real dad to come stay with him, but he's not really feeling it.
You know, I'd love that, but I don't know if now is the best time. Maybe next year, okay?
Geez, what does this guy gotta do to hang out with his dad? Die for the whole world's sins? But to make this portrayal of God even worse, the episode makes him out to be a real sleazeball.
Ah, come on, baby, it's my birthday.
No.
The PTC would label this episode as an example of TV's attempts to portray religion in a negative light, stating that when religion was brought up on shows, it was usually to make fun of it. I guess I can't argue that here. But God wasn't the only target of ridicule, as his son Jesus was given a full episode dedicated to him being a bad person in The 2,000-Year-Old Virgin, which drew a pretty good amount of backlash.
Get out! I need this car!
What are you, a cop?
No! Jesus is about to have with my wife!
So the Griffins run into Jesus after having not seen him since he crashed out and wound up in jail. How are we not talking about that episode?
Why don't you come over to my place for a beer or something?
Oh, that sounds great!
Easy there, Peter. If wine is his blood, I'm hesitant to know what fluid beer is. But when Peter visits his apartment, he finds it to be unfit for the Divine Son.
Hey, how come you aren't with your family during Christmas anyway?
I can't deal with my family during the holidays.
He really is just like us. So does Jesus get 2 separate rounds of presents for his birthday and Christmas, or just one? So to cheer Jesus up, Peter assembles the guys to plan out his birthday party.
We definitely need some women here. Jesus, what kind of girls do you like?
Women? All types, I guess.
Well, Jesus does love everyone, but when the guys find out Jesus is technically a virgin, the whole plan for the party changes.
Jesus, we are gonna help you lose your virginity.
Can you blame him for waiting this long? It's hard to get busy when you're out performing miracles and whatnot. Oh, and the dying, I guess. But after failing to find him the right woman, Jesus throws a certain name in for consideration.
Actually, Peter, I want my first time to be with Lois.
Lois Wilkerson? Lois Lane? Come on, Jesus, you'll have to be more specific. Okay, obviously he's talking about Peter's Lois, but Peter isn't willing to concede to this idea without proper compensation.
Brookstone massage chair.
Really? Are you sure?
Yep, never been more sure of anything in my life.
Good to know his and Lois's relationship is worth only a few $1,000s. But Peter has some buyer's remorse, especially when he learns that Jesus has pulled this stunt before.
Listen, pal, Jesus ain't no virgin. He did the same thing to me last Christmas.
Dang, Jesus gets around, having done this to several men over the years. The Lord be with you, and also with you, and also with your wife, apparently.
You son of a... What have you done to my marriage?
Luckily, Lois didn't go through with it, but that doesn't absolve Jesus from the fact he tricked Peter.
Bravo, Peter. Lois, seems like you folks learned the lesson I intended.
Oh, well, that totally makes it right then. The Bible is full of tests, but the evangelists were probably tired of being tested by this show. The Media Research Center, which was also created by the founder of the PTC, was very critical of this episode's portrayal of the tentpole of Christianity. Not like that would stop this show. But Christianity isn't the only religion that caught strays from the show, as Judaism has also been constantly mocked, like in the Once Banned episode when you wish upon a Weinstein.
So you're saying I need a Jewish guy to handle my money?
Peter, not every Jewish person is good with money.
So after making some bad investments, Peter loses all the money Lois was saving for a rainy day.
I bought us volcano insurance.
Volcano insurance? That's ridiculous.
Spoken just like someone who won't be prepared for a volcano eruption. Rhode Island gets a lot of those, right? So Peter gets it in his head that all he needs to fix his money troubles is a Jewish gentleman. So he wishes upon a star with the bluntly named song, I Need a Jew.
To teach me how to whine.
With an episode plot like that, you're probably thinking its biggest detractor would be a Jewish organization. But it was actually the owner of the song's melody that became the episode's enemy.
Even though they killed my Lord.
If the tune sounds familiar, that's because it's a parody of the song When You Wish Upon a Star from the 1940s Disney film Pinocchio.
When you wish upon a star.
Only, you know, the Family Guy version is filled with a lot more stereotypes. Well, the Bourne Company, a music licensing and publishing house that owned the rights to that song, actually filed a lawsuit against Family Guy for copyright infringement.
I don't have that kind of money.
It turns out they didn't want their song associated with such anti-Semitic lyrics. A shocker, I know. The episode was already delayed from its original release year of 2002, having been pulled from the schedule by Fox executives because of the episode's content.
Your husband's got a good heart, Lois, but his views on Judaism are a little misguided.
But Family Guy would win the court case, ruling that the song fell under parody laws and was used for comical purposes. A pretty cool win, though I don't see a lot of people singing along to this one on karaoke night.
I have a Jew.
Hey!
But the continuous pot shots at Judaism would earn the show constant criticism, like in the Season 8 episode Family Guy.
What the hell?
How do you like it? Huh? How do you like it?
So after getting checked for a breast cancer scare, Lois discovers some shocking lore about her mother.
She's not Jewish.
According to her birth certificate, she is.
What else hasn't she been telling Lois? Is Mom even her real name? It turns out Carter had Babs hide her Jewish ancestry after they married so he can get into country clubs.
It was the right thing to do.
It was the right thing to do, dear.
If you say so. So while Lois, you know, the one who's actually Jewish, decides to keep living her life normally, Peter's ready to embrace what he believes to be the Jewish lifestyle.
Now listen up. I like the hat and I like the scarf, so we're doing this.
That is until his dead father comes to haunt him for betraying his religion.
If you forsake your religion, you'll spend eternity in hell.
But if he's a ghost, does that mean he didn't make it to heaven? Maybe he's not the best person to be taking advice from. So Peter rejects his newfound faith and urges Lois to be like her mother and hide her heritage.
I'm Jewish, and I'm proud of it. And this weekend, we're having a Passover Seder.
You can't do that, it's Easter.
So Peter will need to invoke the wrath of the feared god of the holiday, the Easter Bunny.
Have you been drinking?
Not since I got out of the car. Who here thinks they can kick my ass?
Luckily, Jesus shows up and sets the record straight.
Look, Peter, I thought it might interest you to know that I'm Jewish.
What?
You mean someone loudly yelling about their faith doesn't even understand their faith? Well, that's a new one. So while this episode portrayed Peter as a know-nothing idiot, many still took offense to the show's persistent use of Jewish stereotypes. This involved constant jokes about money.
Gotta knock it off!
And the show even recreated a scene from the notable Holocaust movie Schindler's List, where a Nazi officer shot at people in the camp from his balcony.
Are you out of your mind?
Relax, Lois. I was aiming for the mailbox. I'm just trying to make a point.
Jewish studies columnist Devere Abramovich would go as far as accusing Seth MacFarlane of being anti-Semitic due to his history of Jewish and Holocaust jokes on the show. So the argument continues that just because you can make a joke doesn't mean it's going to be funny. And a lot of people had the same feeling when Family Guy poked fun at the transgender community in the season 8 episode Quagmire's Dad.
And a saluty Rudy toot tooty back to you, my friend.
So Quagmire's dealing with some concerned speculation about his father's romantic preferences. And it's not hard to see why.
Your dad was of the walk, Glenn. Every day at rifle training, he'd help me clean my butt.
Your dad once drank me under the table.
Not sure why Glenn is so worried about his dad being gay, but luckily his father puts those fears to bed.
But I am a woman trapped in a man's body. And while I'm in Quahog, I plan to have a sex change operation.
See? Nothing out of the ordinary to worry about. And he goes through with it, transitioning from Lieutenant Dan Quagmire into Ida Davis.
What do you think, boys?
I'm walking on sunshine, whoa!
And while it takes Quagmire some time to come to terms with his father's transition, he does come around to accepting it by the end.
All I want is for you to be happy. You're my dad. And if you're happy, I'm happy for you.
A heartwarming ending, but it didn't negate many of the transphobic moments that critics had a problem with. LGBTQ author Brett Hardinger described the damage the episode could do from the backhanded comments.
What are you gonna name it? Huh? What are you gonna name your he-she father-mother?
To a very excessive scene of Brian reacting to the fact that he slept with Quagmire's dad. There's vomiting, and then there's 30 seconds of long, uninterrupted vomiting. Family Guy's always labeled itself as an equal opportunity offender, but many of its critics question if jokes about one group carry the same weight as jokes about another. It's up for debate to this day, but I think a lot of people can agree that no one is exactly itching to see that much vomit. And Family Guy would use its equal opportunity to also target the mentally disabled. But its season 8 episode Extra Large Medium created the most controversy and discussion when it referenced former Alaskan Governor Sarah Palin.
Oh boy, my dog is moving today.
So Stewie helps Chris work up the courage to ask out a girl at his school, though she isn't what Stewie was expecting.
Hi, Chris.
Wait a minute, that's the girl?
Yeah, isn't she special?
I think the nicest people in the world and the worst people in the world would probably agree with you, but that doesn't deter Chris from asking her out.
Maybe, you want to go out on a date with me?
Okay, pick me up Saturday at 8.
So punctual and precise. I respect a woman who knows exactly what she wants. So the two go on their date, but she isn't exactly what Chris was expecting.
Now get up, come over here, and give me a shoulder massage.
And by the end of the night, Chris no longer views her as special, but rather just like everybody else.
You're not different at all! You're just a bunch of like everyone else!
And in a very weird kind of way, that's honestly a kind of progressive take on normalizing disabilities. But the main criticism didn't come from the topic, but rather one single sentence later in the episode.
My dad's an accountant, and my mom is the former governor of Alaska.
If you didn't know, this was a direct punch at politician Sarah Palin, who has a child with Down syndrome. Palin responded negatively to the episode, calling the creators of the show, quote, cruel and heartless.
Your head makes me laugh.
I'm guessing this one owned a bunny, but not anymore.
McFarlane stood by the episode, along with Andrea Faye Friedman, the voice actor for the character who has Down syndrome herself. For her, the episode was used as a way for her to criticize Palin, who she believed used her son as a political prop.
I get your ass in the kitchen.
Hey, at least this is one of the rare times Family Guy properly cast someone to portray a character with a disability. Small victories! But Family Guy would continue making jokes about other prominent figures in Peter-assment, which focused on Terry Schiavo, a woman whose comatose situation made national news.
Don't you think it's a little soon for a musical about Terry Schiavo?
Or too late?
So Stewie's taking part in a school musical centered around Terry Schiavo.
How's my wife doing? She's a vegetable.
I hate vegetables.
Well, no one's making you eat this one. For context, Terry Schiavo was a woman who fell into an irreversible vegetative state and essentially became the focal point of a multi-year legal battle between her parents and her husband on whether or not she should be kept on life support.
Terry Schiavo is kind of alive-o.
What's next? A musical about that guy who sued Subway because their foot-long sandwiches were actually 11 inches? Actually, that may not be a bad idea.
It's in the Constitution. We've got to pull the plug.
The brief skit drew criticism from pro-life organizations, along with members of Schiavo's family, who urged Fox to cancel Family Guy altogether.
Look at Stewie. What a baby.
But it's hard to say no to a show that makes him millions upon millions of dollars. The least they could do is throw the Schivos some money for using her likeness. But Family Guy would often move from individuals to broad topics for episodes, like in Screams of Silence, the story of Brenda Q, which gave a very unfunny portrayal of domestic abuse.
Shut up and limp! We're in a handicap spot, you
So while Quagmire's in the hospital, he's visited by his sister Brenda and her abusive boyfriend Jeff.
Oh, Glenn! Oh, thank God you're all right!
Hey, you touching my girl? Relax, Jeff, that's her brother.
You expect a guy like him to understand that? It's all rattling beer cans and heavy metal music up in that brain of his. And while they're in town, the abuse she suffers at the hands of Jeff becomes more and more extreme.
Our relationship is just complicated, that's all.
No, working around YouTube's censoring guidelines for this video is difficult. This is clearer than a crystal in the daytime. And with Brenda refusing to leave or report Jeff, it looks like there's only one option left.
Let's waste this.
Kinda feels like a cop could have done something before it came to this, but I'm always down to see some vigilantism. So they take Jeff out to the woods where he initially gets the jump on them, but Quagmire manages to get the upper hand.
What the hell? I killed you!
I choke myself every day, you...
Well, I guess you can never call his degeneracy useless. So most of the criticism for the episode came from how blindsiding it was. Sure, it saw an abuser get its comeuppance, but the comedy show still had to make some jokes about violence towards women along the way.
I don't get that one!
Is Family Guy really the show to try to tackle sensitive issues with? I'm not sure, as there is a bit of whiplash in going from an episode about domestic violence to one about Ryan Reynolds coming on to Peter in the very next episode. But the show would go from commenting on controversial things to possibly predicting them, as seen in the season 11 episode Turban Cowboy.
Pull back my chair ever so slightly.
So the episode's already controversial in itself, featuring Peter getting mixed up into a terroristic plot to blow up a bridge.
Oh my God!
So you may be wondering what could possibly be more controversial than the main story. Well, it has a cutaway involving Peter winning the Boston Marathon.
How did you do it?
I'll tell you, Bob, I just got in my car and drove it. And when there was a guy in my way, I killed him.
But this doesn't seem all that out of place for the show, so why the big outcry? Well, about a month later, a bombing occurred at the actual Boston Marathon. A hoax quickly spread around with a misleading clip from the show that made it look like they had portrayed the marathon being bombed, but this was quickly debunked. Sorry, but the Simpsons are the only ones in the predicting the future game.
You've destroyed half the neighborhood, and I'm afraid you're gonna really hurt yourself.
In a rare move, Fox actually pulled the episode from broadcast along with streaming sites like Hulu. The episode would eventually return to air, but it now kinda just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. I should really quit trying to eat the episodes, huh? But a scene from the season 6 episode Moving Out Brian's Song left such a bad taste that executives at Fox ordered McFarlane to remove it from the episode.
What the hell did you do?
So right before the first commercial break of the show, Brian is venting to Lois and Peter before the screen unceremoniously fades to black.
I will ask her to move in with me, and you'll see I've got what it takes.
What, no clever one-liner or gag to lead into commercials? Boring. Well, when you learn what was supposed to happen, you can kinda understand why.
What are you, Brian? One of those creepy guys who just uses a woman for
So in the DVD and Adult Swim broadcast version of this scene, a fake ad for The Simpsons is played at the bottom, only to be ruined by Quagmire.
If you're just stringing her along, well then I gotta say, I've lost a lot of respect for you, Brian.
So one of Family Guy's characters was used to take advantage of a character from their biggest competitor. Very classy, McFarlane. Maybe there should be lines we don't cross for a laugh.
What do you say we go back to your place for round 2?
Sounds good to me.
So Quagmire goes back to Marge's, and when the family catches them getting it on, Quagmire proceeds to shoot every member of the family. And I do mean everyone.
Ay, caramba! Mom and Dad are dead!
This was meant to be revenge for The Simpsons poking fun at the show over the years, but because of the extremity of it, Fox wanted the whole bit cut. McFarlane saw this as the network playing favoritism, and eventually Fox had to sit both shows down and tell them they couldn't make fun of each other anymore. Sounds like dealing with children at times.
Kids, you're both just awful.
You may not think so, but the rivalry between the two shows has always been friendly when it came to the show's creators. But there's always a line, and I think Family Guy found it. But when Family Guy finally joined forces with The Simpsons and the Simpsons Guy, it brought the same kind of controversy with them.
I think you and I are gonna get along just okay.
So in the season 13 premiere episode, we finally get to see iconic character pairings many had looked forward to for years, like Bart and Stewie.
Hey, you wanna make a prank phone call?
Ooh, prank phone call!
And if you thought Bart having a landline phone was shocking, just wait until you see Stewie's attempt at a prank call.
Hello, Mo? Your sister's being... Is that one?
If we're talking on a scale from 1 to 10, then yeah, it's 1. The joke would receive a complaint from none other than the PTC, who requested that Fox remove the joke. And unsurprisingly, they did not.
Cowabunga.
But in a rare moment in Family Guy's history, the joke actually got a little bit of support. A spokeswoman for RAIN, a non-profit supporting victims of assault, stated she didn't find the joke offensive because the show positioned the joke to be viewed in a negative light.
You're going to eat my shorts.
I almost feel bad for The Simpsons. You can't take Family Guy with you anywhere without them embarrassing you. But if Family Guy isn't afraid to embarrass other people, don't think they won't do the same to an entire nation, much like they did in adult education.
Have a great day at work, Space Dog.
So in the season 21 finale, we find Meg living in Chelyabinsk, Russia, which is portrayed as a magical city of radiation runoff and poverty. I don't know what Privyet means, but it looks like it brings those fellows happiness, which is good to have when you live so close to nuclear power plants. But who would have thought that this wasn't an accurate representation of the city? Yana Lontratova, a deputy of the city, would speak out on the show's portrayal of the area, calling it a deliberate attack against the image of Russia.
Ah, my darling has appetite of Siberian walrus.
Yeah, that's a fair criticism, but what else do you expect from Family Guy? If there's a stereotype, they're gonna exploit it. But sometimes criticisms stem from complete accidents, like when a scene from the episode Run Chris Run got an entire YouTube video slammed to the copyright strike.
He's taking advantage of poor technology.
So Peter and the guys are hanging out at the end of the episode and decide to play a round of the NES game Double Dribble.
But no stupid ass shots from the corner, because that's a glitch in the software.
Game on!
What Cleveland's referring to is a glitch in the game that makes the right corner of the court a hotspot that has a 100% success rate when shooting from there. Dirty tricks, Peter. You would have definitely been a screen looker back in the split-screen Halo days, huh?
All right, bring it up the court. And corner three!
No, that's what I'm talking about!
But Peter's underhanded tactics aren't the controversial part of this episode. Rather, it's where the show got the footage of the game. On YouTube, there's a video of the glitch in action that was uploaded by the user Switched all the way back in 2009. The show used this video in their episode, but once it premiered, the original video was soon taken down by YouTube, basically saying that Fox owned the right to the footage.
It's a rout, it's a blowout.
It's some bullcrap.
This was essentially Fox trying to prevent illegal piracy of their episode, but got confused by YouTube's automatic copyright detection. Ironic, considering they didn't even ask the original owner if they could use this footage. But this matter was quickly resolved, the video was restored a few days later, and it can still be watched to this day. I guess they're never beating those plagiarism allegations.
Alright, enough of this mess.
And that's our list. At least now we know what to avoid so we don't get canceled. But if you enjoyed this video and want to see more great Family Guy content, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing.